Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. So in the last few days the drifter incursions have restarted, so they're once again attacking Holy Amar. I think that's pretty good news because I love the lore in EVE Online and I would like to see more live events. So that is one thing that I am keeping an eye on. But I have to be honest, I have not played a lot of EVE Online in the last few days because of Fallout 4. Basically it's been out for 3 days now and I've played 22 hours of it already. It's a lot of fun to me and that's really something that I want to enjoy at the moment. So yeah, expect a little bit more Fallout 4. Of course we are here for the market. I will keep making EVE Talk every Saturday. So let's get started right now with plex, and that would be at 50 seconds. Let's take a quick look here at the chart. We can see that the 5-day moving average did cross the 20-day moving average and we have gone up in price, but it looks like plex is hesitating around the 1.2 billion price mark. The reason for that, I think if we look at the amount of new plex that are coming in the last 24 hours. Look at this, all of these really right around the same time. What I think happened here is that some people that bought plex during the sale have actually held on to them, waiting for a better selling opportunity above 1.2 billion because plexes did drop as low as, let's see here, this is probably here the drop, like 1.18 or something like that. So I think that that's what's happening. There are still some plex from the sale that are impacting the market at the moment, keeping the price in check a little bit. But I think once we've gone through that volume, we will be back on the uptrend that has started basically 6 months ago right here. I think you'll be able to just basically keep drawing that line through here, going up. How high will it go? That's very difficult to say in advance, of course. The multiple pilot trading certificate, very similar chart as well, hesitating just below 1.2 billion on the chart. Prices though 1.217, 18 already. Already higher than the price of plex at the moment, so I think that's a good indication that there is just a few more plex that need to go through the market, and then we'll be on our way back up, unfortunately. But it is in line with my personal prediction that there will be a bit of a run-up in plex towards the expansion, and after that maybe we will finally see an actual pullback in the price of plex, but that will all depend on the full impact on the economy, new players, old players coming back, on basically how successful the Citadel expansion will be. For the body rescope certificate, there's not much to say except that it is closely tied to plex at the moment. So we can clearly see here that just as with plex, it went back up and it hesitating in the last few days or so, just below 280 million. I think it's because of all the things that are happening, including the sale and all the speculation that's happening in the plex market, that it has its impact on the body rescope certificate. But keep in mind that this is a much smaller market, it's its own thing, and there has been little indication to say that if plex keep going up, it's gonna be the same for the rescope certificate, because we've seen it do completely different stuff as well. Moving on to some minerals then, 340 for that. Let's start off with titanium here. So we can see that titanium did go up to 6.3 ISK, seemingly hesitating at the tail end, but we do see one data point well above that. So let's take a quick look at the actual prices. 630, 633, there's a few orders coming in here. I actually made the ticker a few hours ago. But it's 300 million coming in here, like just a few minutes ago. That's really putting it closer to 630 here once again. The buyers though are going as high as 624, and if we look at the volumes, then we actually do see a story that that says that there's a lot of demand. Look at that, 1.1 billion, 1.8 billion, 1.1 billion, 1.6 billion, another 1.6 billion. And that's just 616 to 620, something like that. So I think that there is still higher demand for titanium than there is supply. It is coming in somewhat decent numbers, 380 million, 323 million right here. But I would still give the edge to demand. So what could be happening is that we see this really fast run up to 620. The market needed to take a little bit of a break here, so we went down a bit. Then again, a decent run up to 630. Looks like we may hit a little break here as well, but I think there is still room for titanium to go even higher. Next up, we've got pyrite here, which has basically done a little bit of a double dip to 11.2 ISK, is now on its way back up. So 1160 for the sellers, 1124 for the buyers. Let's see, 1124, where is that? That's right around here on the chart though. So let's take a quick look at the volumes. The recent orders, maybe the first front half. This would be a total of around 200 million units, something like that on the demand side. We do have 200 million units here, 145 million units here as well, 375 million units here. I'd give the edge again to demand in pyrite. There could be a little bit more room up. But the bad news is that the buyers are not closely following the increase in price here. There seems to be some hesitation here as well. I think pyrite could continue to show some volatility, basically with in the short term a good chance that it will be going up. Next up here we've got Mexalon. That one is actually correcting substantially from 70 ISK down to almost 60 ISK at the moment. I think what could be happening here is just basically the percentage increase was too big. Going from below 45 ISK to 70 ISK is quite a big jump up all of a sudden. And so I think that basically the market here needs more time to digest the actual Mexalon market. 6102 for the buyers, 62 for the sellers. Pretty small margin for this. Volume wise, we've got almost a front page of recent orders, 70, 60, another 60 here. On the demand side, 50, 57, 20, something like that. Yeah, again here I would actually say supply is winning out at the moment. And so Mexalon is actually probably fighting to stay above 60 ISK, which could turn out to become like the price that is considered okay by the market for Mexalon, around 60 ISK. I think it's possible. Let's take a look at Isogen next here. Also actually coming back up a little bit, so we can clearly see that it went up pretty violently above 125 ISK, then dropping back below 115, but it's now coming back. The sellers are at 116, the buyers are at 114. Again, let's take a look at volume here. We've got 30 million, 4 million. All of this is pretty recent. I would put that at 50-60 million units. On the sellers, 6 million, 5 million, 3 million. So I actually think that Isogen still has legs as well. Give the edge to demand, and I think the general high-sec situation is that there is still prepping for citadels happening at the moment. There is still very strong demand, and so still some upwards potential for the high-sec minerals. Mexalon is doing something a little bit different, but I think that again that is because of the really big jump in the actual price that happened here. It was just a little bit too much percentage wise for the market to actually be able to maintain. But considering all of the other ones, I think Mexalon will at least stabilize, if not also start to go up a little bit. Let's take a look at Noxium here, trying to crawl out of its bottom at 470. This was pretty sharp. I do think that people recognize that Noxium at 470 is pretty damn cheap, and so maybe a few players made a big move here, causing the spike up to 500. Now we are settling at like 490, something like that. 493 for the sellers, 477 for the buyers. Pretty decent margin. I'm reading this as a market that's hesitating. People recognize that yes, it's a bottom. They also see that there is that big oversupply of Noxium, and so they don't really know what to do with it. There's bound to be people that are taking positions by buying up stocks of Noxium, but there is absolutely no guarantee that whatever CCP has in store for the future or the release of citadels will actually mean an increase in price, considering that we are probably in an oversupply situation. And so unless that's addressed, it could turn out that, well, Noxium might just stay exactly where it is in the foreseeable future. Personally, I don't feel too bad about the gamble. 470 is extremely low, honestly, for Noxium, and so buying stocks of this close to that price I don't think is a bad move, but be aware that there are no fundamentals at the moment that, except maybe demand from citadels that would indicate that this price is wrong or too low or anything like that. For the Nosec ones here, we've got Zydrine, which bumped back up after coming very close to 1000 ISK, up to 1100, but I think we're already on our way back down. Let's see if there's supply coming in here. 5 million, 1 million, 3 million, all of those less than 24 hours old. And I only see one buy order of 3 million units, very close actually to 1000 ISK at 1060, pretty much right in the middle of the sellers and at 1000. So there is some hesitation to bring Zydrine closer to 1000, but I think it's still in the cards because there is still more supply coming in here despite these lower prices. And then for Megasite, we can see that the slow downtrend is continuing towards 1300 here, especially at the tail end. We're now talking 1305 for the buyers, 1347 for the sellers. Volume wise, we've got 3 million being bought here. Quite a bit of competition actually, a lot of these orders are pretty recent, really trying to point one each other here. So the buyers are saying, okay, for 1300 I'll actually buy the Megasite, and the sellers are just trying to get a little bit of a markup here, but the volumes are not that big on that side. So I think that Megasite is finding its bottom, and 1300 for the buyers is definitely something that people are willing to pay for Megasite right here. I'll quickly touch on Morphite. Where is that one? Right here. I think it's still doing quite okay. It touched 11,000. It's declined like a little bit, especially from that violent top up to 14,000. But overall, this still feels like a pretty stable situation. You don't have the same thing as, let's say, Zydrine, which has clearly had to give back a lot of its gains after the mineral changes. And we're also not talking like anything close to, for instance, Tritanium, which has increased in price very recently. Morphite has just slowly declined a little bit, probably on slight oversupply, which is in line with all the mining potential that is happening in Nosec at the moment, which has also driven down Zydrine and Megasite. So a very slow decline of Morphite, but not that much at all. I think that this is actually still pretty stable, hovering in the 11,000 to 13,000, is right around 12,000 for Morphite at the moment, and I see no reason that this would change. Let's take a look at the impact on the Tech 1 market then. 1240, and we will start with the Armageddon battleship, which after trying to settle at around 206 million is now again moving up pretty violently. I had noted that there were not that many of them on the market last week. It looks like that's finally going to be solved here, because we've got 5, 1 and then 99 of them coming in just around an hour ago, trying to sell them at 209 million. That should support a bit of a ceiling for the price of Armageddons at 209, and could possibly, if some more people bring those to the market, bring the price back down a little bit. But it does look like 205, 206 million for an Armageddon on average is where we will be staying for a while. Next up here we've got the Caracal, moving back right around the 12 million on average in the last 6 months. That actually feels pretty okay. Considering volume wise, this looks like a decently stocked market, and I guess we've not had like any major buyouts in the last few weeks or so since October, because we don't see those really violent upswings in the last few weeks. So okay, the Caracal seemingly stabilizing a bit. Next up here we've got the Dominics, also going back up again towards 206 million, which is in the same range as the Armageddon, so I don't think that that's completely out of line, but there is that slow increase in price over the last 6 months. And if I go for the 1 year chart, I think you will see that we are now definitely concentrating on the higher part of the chart here at the moment. But it doesn't even feel like it's completely out of whack. I mean, maybe you can see a bit more of an average of 195 before here with the higher periods, and then again, but here we could just be entering a high period again for the Dominics. So I actually think that this is still quite okay. Supply though, we're pretty much empty of Dominics, so if you want to be able to sell a few at potentially a better price, it's a good time to do so. That's really weird that we're actually seeing these empty markets in JITA from some of these ships here, but already 8, 1 and 9. There's already around 20 Dominics that have been brought to the market, average daily volume of maybe 50 or so Dominics, so this could still fix itself, but I do guess that the buyout of Dominics is what happened, causing this increase in price. The question is, will the industrial potential be able to fill that gap quickly enough? Next up here we've got the Drake, settling back towards 54 million, which I think is an okay price for a Drake. Supply wise, this looks pretty healthy, so nothing too drastic to report here. The Mauler, I'm actually glad to see that one recovering back towards 11 million after that big price spike right here. That does mean that in general the Tech 1 market can do quite okay, and it's filled up quite nicely as well, so I think we actually had a complete buyout of the Mauler market, causing this increase in price, but it's dropped back right back to its normal, just above 11 million, and the supply is back as well. So I think maybe the battleships, because they are bigger, they require much more minerals, more time, and that they're having a harder time coming back from the shocks that have happened in the Tech 1 market. In my opinion, on speculation, but everyone of course can have their own opinion on that. But when it comes to cruisers, these gaps are filled really quickly, and you can see that overall the Tech 1 market feels pretty stable. Next up here we've got the Myrmidon, up from 54 to 56 million over the last 6 months. Let's take a look at supply here. Really decent supply coming in, and here we've got 98 of them coming in as well. That could potentially put a bit of a ceiling on the price for Myrmidons as well, and if we could move back to like an average of 55 million, I think it's a possibility. Here we've got the Oracle, after knowing a bit of a high period at 88 million, that one finally corrected a little bit as well, and the market seems decently stocked too, so it looks like the Oracle is actually going to settle above 80 million. Which I think is normal for a tier 3 battle cruiser, but we're no longer in those 90 plus millions for them either anymore, which was what was happening because we were almost empty of oracles, but that has been replenished, and so it's all looking quite okay. Next up here we've got the Raven, starting to move around the 195 to 200 million mark, which is okay for a battleship, I think, and supply wise this is looking quite okay as well. Next up here we've got the Stabber, again very similar spike to the Mauler, settling now at 11.5 million, a little bit higher than the 10.5 we used to have before the spike. Let's see, oh, and I can't really go up or down here, so that is because the Stabber gap has yet to be fully plugged, although it's starting to come along. You can see here sellers at 17 million, then 15 million, 12.5 million, and now 11, and competition is starting now at 11.8, and if there is enough production out there, then the Stabber market could actually come back towards the 10.5, I think, in the upcoming weeks. Next up here we've got the Tornado, also finally settling back a little bit to 74 million, which well is basically quite okay for an average for Tornadoes. If you see where we start here, 72 million and at 74, this is quite alright. Again, decently stocked market by now, so it just takes a bit more time for the gaps to be plugged, maybe because of lower activity in the game or something like that. Next up here we've got the Typhoon. This may look like something out of whack, you know, a Tech 1 ship that has clearly gone up substantially in price in the last 6 months, but keep in mind where the Typhoon comes from, 174 million going up to 192 million. It's basically bringing the Typhoon in line with the other battleships in price range, and I don't think that the materials required are that dissimilar in price and volume, so I think this is just a healthy correction for the Typhoon, considering that, well, at the moment it looks like you're paying around 200 million for a battleship. Actually, I'm okay with that. Seeing some value come back to larger Tech 1 ships, I don't think is a bad thing for the game. And then finally here the Vexor, also that spike just like the other cruisers, but correcting back towards 11.5 million with a healthy stock of Vexors that the market can digest. So the Tech 1 market, okay, there were some moves at one point a few months ago. There was definitely like almost a buyout of half the market or something like that, which caused quite a bit of problems. But to me it looks like we're slowly getting back on our feet, like the industrialists are finding the opportunities, plugging the gaps, and I think that will keep going on more and more stable periods, especially seeing the Oracle drop back and the tornado as well. I think does indicate that things are starting to calm down here in the Tech 1 market. Next, Tech 2 market 2015. For that one, we'll see if there is some movement to be spotted here. Unfortunately, the Basilisk went up from like 180 to 190. That's just not big enough of a spike to say that you're gonna make some real trade money on that, and now it's too high to buy and too low to sell. So this is much better, of course, starting at 175 and then moving up to 215. That's where you make money. That's what we're looking for, but just not in the cards here. Despite that huge volume spike here, the price did not really make that big of a move in response to that. So we'll have to see if there's better opportunities than a Basilisk. I think the Cerberus, I did point that one out when it was really close to 180, when you could probably pick up Cerberus close to or below 180 million. We are now selling them for 195 million. So that's still just below 10%. It's a bit too slow again for my taste, but yeah, the buy opportunity for Cerberus is over, and if we're lucky, we may see a sell opportunity form on this current uptrend here, but it's doubtful. It's pretty slow. Next up here, we've got the Guardian, again touching 130, bouncing off of that. Buyers are at 124 million. I think longer term this is okay. The worrying bit is that we only see one price spike up to 165, which, you know, from 130 to 165 would be pretty damn good, but only 1 in 6 months, that's just a pretty stable. So I would say you can consider the Guardian for a longer term investment, but keep in mind that it's a big gamble because it's not been as volatile as I would like it to be. Next up here, we've got the Hound. Unfortunately, 18 million on a downtrend after coming from 17 million is right smack in the middle of where we don't want the Hound to be, because I don't think that this is either good for selling or buying. So yeah, nothing too good here. Ishtar, that's more interesting. Look at that, breaking 165, and then here at below 160, really spiking up to 175. Double spike there. Definitely a good opportunity to sell on these 2 points. That was not too long ago, and now dropping down substantially to 155. Where are the buyers at? 152. Not that many buy orders. If you can see the Ishtar make a bit of a comeback, then perhaps this could be a good investment on some volatility, if there could be a trigger. Of course, the Ishtar has been in the crosshairs for nerfs. If you think that CCP may do yet another nerf, then that's a big risk to take, of course. But Ishtars with very few buy orders and as low as 152, I think could be okay. Next up, we've got the Manticore. That is really not looking good in my book, staying above 20 million. And just look at how flat this chart is, except for that one big spike here in the middle. And maybe those two here up to 26 million. I feel it's still very risky. I know that I completely missed the volatility in the Manticores because the Manticore has always been more expensive than the other stealth bombers like the Nemesis, for instance, which you can see right here, 18.5 million, like the Hound as well, 18 million for that, which is why I never really thought that it would be okay to invest in those. But if you can, of course, see an opportunity like this one here, a spike up to 32 million, that could be good. But yeah, it's too stable and it's more expensive than the other stealth bombers. I don't really see why you would move on the Manticore when there's probably better opportunities somewhere else. Like here with the Nemesis, it's not great. Moving from 75 to above 19 million can give you a little bit of a return, but not really great. But what I do like is that we dropped off from 20, went down to 17.5, went back up to 19, and now we're dropping once again with data points below 17.5. Buyers are below 17 million for a Nemesis. I think that that's a better bet than the Manticore, which is still above 20 million and has shown less volatility. So if I would have to invest some ISK at the moment, I would say Nemesis could actually be one to look into. Next up here, the Oniros. Again, not that great, 145 million. Excuse me. 145 million. Bottoms would be better at 140 or even 135 million to see actually some volatility and some upswing potential. The nice spike up to 175 is not bad, of course, but yeah, I'd be very hesitant. Even with buyers, they're still at 141, which I think is still too high. Next up, we've got the Purifier then. Again, a bit too stable. Where are the buyers at? Are they like below 16 million? No, not yet. 16 and a half. That's where the chart is. So again, yeah, Purifier, no. Nemesis looks the more interesting stealth bomber at the moment. Next up here, Scimitar. Went as low as 130. I was hesitant considering the rest of the chart, but it does look like it was a bit of a trigger. Now we're already back up to 140 and seemingly on our way up. So if you did buy Scimitars close to 130, then you could be in for a sell opportunity in not too much time. But you have to keep a close eye on that. It's the same with the Cerberus. It's a little bit of a double upswing, but it's pretty slow, and so it can be snuffed out pretty quickly. And then finally the Vengeance here. 19 million, right in the middle of the chart. Again, not really great. So I'm getting that vibe that the Tech 2 market is somehow less volatile and not so good for investments at the moment. I would be very careful to actually make a move unless you know that you don't need the ISK for a very long time. You actually want to make that more as an investment than a trade opportunity. The only ones that I would consider is maybe the Nemesis because of its recent volatility, and then the Ishtar because it is a pretty big drop off towards a 6-month low. So that could be interesting as well. Alright, moving on then to, and yeah, my nose is being a bit annoying, but we'll just try to get through this. Next up here we've got the Tech 3 market at 27.05, and I'll just start going from the top on this one. Confessor breaking out to 60 million now. That's not bad. Of course, I do think the Confessor is a pretty good tactical destroyer, very popular one, but I thought that there was still decent supply. That is slowly drying up though. Look at that. You can't browse here anymore. Demand is pretty strong. All of this is pretty recent, going as high as 58 million. So it's actually basically demand that is driving up the Confessor at the moment, because there's just not that many of them out there. Probably a good opportunity to actually bring them to the market, because I think selling them for 64 million will make you quite a bit of money on the goods, the bill of materials. Next up here we've got the Hecate, going up to 55 million. Actually went down a little bit at the tail end, and supply here it is a lot better. So yeah, Hecate a bit lower in price and more volume available on the market. So Confessor looks like the go-to ship if you actually have Tech 3 stuff to produce. Next up the Jackdaw here, again hesitating, coming back down to 50 million, and the market, well, here 100, 170, 10, 10, 16 still coming to the market. I would say there is still decent supply for the Jackdaw, although it's not as big as the Hecate. Next up here we've got the Legion, which is one of the cruisers. After that huge spike up, we had a big correction to 160. Now we're settling at around 170, and supply is still pretty ample. So that's looking okay for a more stable period for the Legion, I would say. Maybe even some pressure. Same with the Loki right here, also settling at 170, and we've got a decent supply. Finally here we got the Proteus going up towards 180, and yeah, less supply, 215 for the sellers actually. So it looks like the Proteus is going to make a little bit of a move up here once again. Someone must have bought everything below 215 or something like that, or maybe even up to this point right here, and these could be new orders. They're trying to resell some of them, something like that, but Proteus is set to be the one to spike this week. Here we've got the Zwepel then, also going up close to 65 million. Supply wise, that's coming in though, 61 million, quite a few of them. Pretty recent as well, less than 24 hours old, more than a front page. So the Zwepel is going to correct substantially, I think, on this oversupply. I think that could just be the worst one to bring to the market at the moment. And then finally we've got the Tengu, who is also correcting back a little bit supply wise, looking pretty good with 61 of them coming into the market here at the moment. So for the tech tree market, there is, I think, more volatility now that the destroyers have been brought into the game, meaning that the industrial potential of that is divided over more ships, and so sometimes gaps need to be plugged, showing some volatility. And this week it looks like it's really the Confessor that is under some pressure, because yeah, those supplies are drying up, and maybe the Proteus as well. But it could already be too late. It's possible that it was already bought out and that now the counter movement will already have been started for the Proteus. But all the other ones actually seem decently stocked in the market, and we'll have to wait and see. It's very difficult, I feel, to predict when or which ship it's going to happen to next. So I really do get the feeling that it's big players that sometimes make big buyouts of Tech 3 ships at the moment, maybe rather than Tech 1 ships or even Tech 2 ships. I think it's a possibility that people are exploring the tactical destroyers. Also keep in mind there are even more new ships coming to the game, so all of this could again be impacted by that quite substantially. I'm hoping that I don't mind even more volatility, because that gives more potential for trade, for picking up profits here and there, as long as the Tech 1 market can remain stable. I really do feel that that's a fundamental of fundamental importance to the game. And then finally, for the extra material, 3135, I'm going to take a look at the Anti-Kythera element. The reason for that is, of course, the Drifter Incursion, so unknown elements. Anti-Kythera element clearly dropping off here. So what I'm seeing here is that this is used in the Entosis link, if I'm not mistaken, that these new Drifter Incursions are going to be a major source of Anti-Kythera elements. And this is why this is actually dropping off pretty sharply. We even see data points as low as 3 million, buyers 3,750 though, and sellers 4.5 million. But yeah, I think oversupply is set to come in here. Anti-Kythera could actually go down. Same with the Entosis link because of that. Maybe I should check it. Entosis search. Entosis link 1. That one hasn't really moved on this just yet, and Entosis link 2 shows some volatility. So maybe if I take a quick look at the blueprints, and then we've got materials, one Anti-Kythera element. Yeah, it looks like the Entosis link actually still needs to go down a little bit on the restart of the Drifter Incursions. One big thing, of course, is that all of this is really still steeped into a lot of mystery and story that needs to be unlocked and uncovered by the players, and so you never know what's actually going to happen next. But expect the Entosis link to actually decrease in value a little bit because of the new Drifter Incursions, clearly seen here by the drop in price in the Anti-Kythera elements, which I think is going to continue once people get to know these encounters and actually find the tricks to do them without losing too many ships and actually run them for a profit. Then this could really drop off quite substantially. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to in EVE Online at the moment. That is some more storyline stuff. If I find the chance to join like a live event, I'm definitely gonna try and do that. But I'm also playing a lot of Fallout 4 because I'm enjoying that quite a lot. Anyways, that's it for this EVE Talk then, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.